Friends, you probably haven't heard yet, but the state has introduced a new law for pensioners, and now there will be completely new rules again for receiving pensions. So our dear friends, those who already have gray hair on their temples and wisdom behind their shoulders, who after many years of work are waiting for a peaceful old age, today we are not talking about some complicated formulas or percentages, friends, not about indexation with coefficients. Today we are talking about what the pension we have here in Ukraine actually means for most of you. Will it be enough not just until the next payment, but for bread, medicine, so that you don't lie awake at night thinking about how to survive? In this video you will know the truth. Whatever it is better to know, and it is better to live like that, simply prepared. But there is a lot of good. So, let's get started. I invite anyone who wants to take note. The average pension is now approximately 6,436 Ukrainian hryvnias. Well, it is approximately 133 euros. I understand that many of you say, how is it so? Not everyone has such a large pension. I agree with you. Not everyone has it. But this is one of the lowest figures in Europe. Yes and yes. But the average does not mean that everyone receives exactly that much. I understand perfectly well that many of you receive 3,000, 3.5 or even less. I am convinced that 80 to 85% of pensioners have a payment closer to this number than to the average, while only a few receive 6,000 hryvnias, maybe with a little extra. And even those 6,000 Ukrainian hryvnias are only 133 euros. In Poland, a pensioner has about 460 euros. Think about it. In Germany, it is about 1,100 euros in pension. This is a lot. That is, a German pensioner lives for a month on what ours saves for almost a year. Well, how can this be? And then the question arises, why is one pensioner given 1,000 to 2,000 UAH added to his pension, and another 100 or even 200 UAH? The answer is simple and unfortunately, because some pensions are tied to real salaries and are automatically recalculated, while others are tied only to inflation, which the state itself sometimes adjusts. This is what the Ministry of Social Policy of our Ukraine, the Ministry of Social Policy, is fighting against. Here's a new law that cuts off these privileged rungs. Friends, look. The government wants one indexation formula for everyone. Now it sounds good, but there is a trap. The formula is only inflation. Without a real increase in salaries, without economic growth, without the state's real concern for old age, inflation can ruin everything. And what is inflation in real life? According to official data, prices have increased by more than 14% over the year. When I said, think about it, 14%, but this is an average number, and in life, the things that you can't survive without are grown. These are eggs by more than 50%. Pork has grown by about 38%, chicken by more than 30%. Basic bread products by 20%, and everything is getting more expensive. It's very difficult to live. And now imagine your pension is indexed, say by 14%, and food prices are going up by 30 to 50. You don't get richer, you just get poorer. This is not the state's concern for us, the people. This is the return of part of what it invested in us, inflation. Indexation is not a gift, it's debt coverage. I'll tell you this. Well, in some videos people wrote comments to me. We don't need to hear this I understand that it touches on something personal and spoils the mood, to be honest. And I feel the same way. But how can we not speak about the truth? Well, why keep quiet? If we keep quiet and don't speak, well, we can do that. Well, what then? It's just that no one knows anything, so they say, I don't hear, I don't see anything. Well, that's not an option either. Let's talk about the bitter truth and as they say, because it's better than a sweet lie. But there is also good, friends. I'll tell you now. Excuse me a little for digressing. Most Ukrainian pensioners now receive less than 5,000 UAH. According to official data, 2 out of 3 pensioners have a payment that doesn't even reach this figure, and some people live on 3,300 Ukrainian hryvnias a month. In Ukraine, which says, we protect you, and over 3.5 million people, this is not an exception, this is a mass reality. And how will we survive at the expense of, I would say so, at the expense of pensioners who once worked for this state and are still working. Ukraine is holding on. Well, I'll tell you this from myself. Well, also at the expense of other people, but many pensioners work. Almost 3 million people in Europe work. For example, 1 in 10 pensioners, and here 1 in 3. In many of those who work, well, unofficially, just to make it to the next payment date. That's the question. Is this exactly what we call a pension? Now, let's look at the picture from above, as they say. The government says, we will equalize the rules. There will be no more special pensions. Everyone will be in the same boat. One formula. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine is already openly talking about the abolition of golden pensions and the launch of a cumulative system. That is, everyone is saving for themselves, because the solidarity system is cracking. Demography, war, budget, we can all see it. It sounds nice about equality. But what does this mean for you personally? If, for example, you are a judge, prosecutor, or have a special category, your privileges are cut. The automatic increase along with the salary of current colleagues ceases to apply? Yes, friends, there is colossal injustice in this. If you are an ordinary pensioner, they do not promise you more money. They promise you, some kind of equality. Justice in the formula is everyone is equally poor, whatever they call it. And here we need to be as honest as possible. The state does not say we will raise pensions to the European level. The state says we will make sure that everyone does not receive the European level equally. That's all. So what should an ordinary person do right now? First, do not believe the word indexation as a gift. This is not a bonus, it is compensation for reduced purchasing power. Second, understand that the funded pension system is not a distant theory, but very concrete. Either you save yourself or you work for yourself in old age and choose further, as they say. This is what we are led to. The decisions of the Ministry of Social Policy and the rhetoric in the Verkhovna Rada. The third is to speak out loud, as we do. Speak, friends, and not say there. Do not write comments. Shut up. We don't need to know that. Well, I will speak. For those who want to hear, please, who don't want to listen, you have the choice not to listen, because while we are silent, they will tell a beautiful tale about social justice on television, and in your hands you will be left with the same thing. It was 3,300, it became 3,400, a check from the pharmacy for 2,800, and that's it. And what is left? This program was not just about pensions, it was about dignity. I really want pensioners to be valued with dignity. And in fact, our dears, don't let me tell you that old age should be quiet, calm, and without worries, and with silence. Old age should be dignified. Old age should be without fear, without a menu of bread or medicine, when choosing, when they talk about the average pension. Remember, average does not mean enough. When they say indexation, remember, it is not a gift. When they say a new formula for all, remember, the formula may be fair, but the level will remain low. And when they say, we are protecting you, ask, and how are you protecting us? Are you just putting us all on the same level? Yes, it's hard to listen to. It's hard to listen to, and it's hard. Well, what can we do? Such is life. Well, let's listen to this a little bit. It will immerse us in reality. Honestly, at first, friends, it's hard to listen to, and then we already understand what kind of situation we are in, and it's a little easier to live, because a person is morally prepared. This is my opinion, excuse me. That's how it is. But this, unfortunately, is the truth. And where there is truth, there is also the beginning of change, friends. If we remain silent, there will be no change. Or there will be, but not for our benefit, as they say. So let's talk. Ask your questions in the comments, for example. Let's talk, discuss. I will answer your questions. I basically always answer questions. And, well, some specific questions, rhetorical, well, I just read and I like to read your opinion. Well, that's all. I thank you then. I don't want to keep you up. This was the truth, which I think will help moral stability. I would say so. Yes, it's not warm, but we also need moral stability. I don't like it all, I'll tell you, just like you, so that you remember. But it's okay. We're holding on. We believe in tomorrow. because there's no other choice. We don't need to panic so early, friends. We don't need to. We're waiting. Maybe there will be changes. They're coming. I see there are certain moves forward. There aren't many of them. We're waiting for the best. We're holding on, as they say, and we remember that we're not alone. We're all in the same boat, swimming alive. Sorry for the emotions a little. That's all. Then everything's fine. Goodbye. We'll see you in the next video if you wish. Be healthy, friends. It was nice to hear from you.